We begin with Rick Santorum's comments on Satan back in 2008. Michael Steele served as chair of the Republican National Committee, or as they put it, chairman. David Cornyn, our Mother Jones, Washington bureau chief. Both are MSNBC political hotshots. Let's see. Here it is. Fair enough. It was 4 years ago.
Let's shake now.
No, let's talk about this. You're going to have to put your big 16-ounce gloves against each other. Back in 2008, Rick Santorum spoke at a Catholic university, Ave Maria, down in Florida, and spoke about the threat of Satan in the United States, in fact, on the United States. Let's listen to what Rick had to say back then.
This is not a political war at all. This is not a cultural war at all. This is a spiritual war. And the father of lies has his sights on what you would think the father of lies, Satan, would have his sights on. A good, decent, powerful, influential country, the United States of America. If you were Satan, who would you attack in this day and age? There is no one else to go after other than the United States.
There's no one else to go after but the United States, Mr. Devil. Well, last night, Rick Santorum tried to put those remarks into context. Let's watch.
I'm a person of faith. I believe in good and evil. I think if somehow or another, because you're a person of faith and you believe in good and evil, is a disqualifier for president, we're going to have a very small pool of candidates. And we're talking about America today is trying to get America growing. That's what my speeches are about. That's what we're going to talk about in this campaign. And if they want to dig up old speeches of talking to a religious group, they can go right ahead and do so. But I'm going to stay on message.
Well, today he had more to say on this subject, but I want to catch up with our two panelists right now. Michael, what is he? He's giving speeches about the devil at a Catholic university. Fair enough.
4 years
He's
ago.
down at 4 years ago. Do you think that's fine?
Absolutely. I've given such speeches myself. As a former seminarian and giving motivational speeches and the like. Yeah, you touch on the things that culturally and spiritually affect people, and I think there's a resonance out there for what Rick is saying. Now, running for president, people aren't used to having a presidential candidate talk in those terms, and so the ear's a little bit jarred by it. But I'm telling you.
What about his theology? What about his theology, even in the context of 4 years ago, that the devil's out to get the U.S.?
Well, I mean, I think that he's talking about a spiritual malaise that has affected the country. You go to any church, regardless, synagogue, imam, and Christian church on Sundays or Fridays, you hear that message. Yeah. So it's not a foreign message to be heard.
Your thought,
you're
David
being
Corn.
very charitable.
I'm not being charitable.
Go ahead.
Listen, he said that Satan is targeting the U.S. alone. He's leaving Canada and Belgium apparently to their own devices. But the thing is, he also said it's not just about good and evil in the world and using the devil as sort of a metaphoric way. He says Satan has taken control, has seized control of the academia, of Protestant churches. Mainline Protestant churches have fallen to Satan. Now, go make that argument as you go out there and campaign. It was 4 years ago. This wasn't some youthful indiscretion. Many years in the past, it shows how he thinks about the world. And if you
in that same speech.
But if you do believe that your political foes are motivated by Satan or part of a satanic plot, or
did he say that?
Listen, he said.
But he didn't say that.
No, he said.
You're now extrapolating, David. I've given you a moment.
Let me make my point. He says that politics in this country have fallen to Satan. So he's saying that what he doesn't like about politics.
A lot of people believe that.
Okay, they can believe that.
And you don't. I'm surprised you didn't include the press.
But what I'm saying is, if you believe that, then how can you compromise with the other side? If you believe the other side,
we have fresh meat here, guys. So we don't have to argue about 4 years ago. Although I do think it's in context here. Let's take a look. Right. Today, Rick Santorum, candidate for president, on the campaign trail for president, took on the sitting president, Barack Obama, on his moral values. Let's watch today's news.
And the greatness of America is we have such diversity with this proviso. E pluribus unum. Right? Out of many, one. Essentially, we are going to have to hold together on some set of moral codes and principles. And we're seeing very evidently what the president's moral codes and principles are about. We see a president who is systematically trying to crush the traditional Judeo-Christian principles in this country. I mean, you saw it. You saw it with Obamacare and the implementation of Obamacare, where his values are going to be imposed on a church's values.
Well, there you have fresh news. The president is guilty of crushing traditional Christianity and Jewish values and principles. He's crushing them. He is doing that. He is bringing forward his theology 4 years ago right into the public square, right into his campaign. He's not being squeamish.
No, he's not. And look, you can disagree with him all day long. You know, I give anyone props who's willing to go out there in the context of running for office to put their faith as alongside of that effort. So I'm not going to begrudge him that. You can argue around the edges about whether you agree or disagree. Let me finish my point.
It's open to scrutiny and criticism.
You can't criticize. David, you can criticize me on my policies. You can't criticize me on my faith. Because that's something that's core to what I believe.
If you're talking about it and running for office, you can.
David, let me make my point. I'm not going to sit here and criticize you on your faith, no matter what you say.
I'm not running for president.
Doesn't matter whether you're running for president or not. My point
out there, it's open to evaluation.
Okay, let me ask you about this.
We disagree on that then.
He wants to. Rick Santorum is pro-life, and he would like to establish what he calls a common set of moral principles. He really does want to impose, if you will, his values on a very pluralistic society.
No, he's not saying.
Doesn't he want to do that?
I don't think he wants to impose his values. He's saying that the country has, from out of many one, that we as a country have settled on certain moral codes or values. And what, in the context of what I was going to say, in the context of this race, looking at the president's handling decision on contraception in the church, looking at the president's decision to cut off scholarship funding for places like Carroll High School here in Washington, D.C. that would empower young African-American boys and girls. There's a moral code there that attends that policy.
Scholarship.
The opportunity scholarship.
I'm with you on that one. By the way, let's take a look at the politics. Let's get back to where we're strongest here. Not who's right moralistic. By the way, Christians and my religion doesn't think of the devil as a metaphor.
No, it's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
No, that's right.
Let's just so we get that. I don't want anybody who's watching get confused about what we believe. Here's Rush Limbaugh weighing in. Let's get back to the politics where we're strong here.
Yes.
A warning that Santorum will need to have answers when he faces it. So here's Rush Limbaugh, defender of the right and the realm, saying he's got to answer questions about what he's been saying even 4 years ago. Let's listen to Limbaugh today.
It's part of the predictable attempt to impugn Santorum as an absolute religious nut and wacko. But he did say these things, and he's going to have an answer for these things when queried.
What do you think?
I agree. No, I agree with that. I think that's legitimate.
Corn's right.
No, I think. But the problem I have with Corn is that Corn is sitting in judgment of his faith values and saying that, well, therefore I get to scrutinize and say whether it's right or wrong.
I don't know.
You can.
I'm not talking about right or wrong.
Let me ask you. Are you doing that? Are you doing that?
I'm not saying right or wrong.
You are. You're sitting in judgment of it.
I'm saying you can evaluate them. That doesn't mean right or wrong.
Evaluate.
Stop for a second. No, just stop for a second.
I want to evaluate.
Let me try to referee. Are you questioning Rick Santorum's right to his religious beliefs?
Not at all.
What are you questioning?
I'm questioning the impact on his policy view of the world and his...
Where is the impact?
Where's the impact?
If he says Protestant churches are controlled by Satan, that seems to me to indicate he has a certain view of Protestant...
Let's go back.
What policy, David, are you specifically addressing that to? What policy are you specifically applying it to then?
How can you be president...
If I stop.
How can you be president of the entire nation if you believe part of them are part of Satan?
Where is the policy implication,
Abortion, contraception, all these moral...
Where is the policy implication?
Okay, let me help you out here, guys. This isn't complicated. I think what he's talking about, not to speak for Rick Santorum, and I'm not defending his view, but simply to translate him, he's talking about some of the mainstream Protestant religions now who accept same-sex marriage. They accept same-sex relationships. They accept gay people in their priesthood.
Abortion.
They accept abortion.
These are all policy matters.
And he thinks they're wrong. And you're saying he has no right to say that.
He can say whatever he wants to say, but he can be judged.
So can he believe that?
He can believe whatever he wants to believe.
All right, but he can't if he wants to be president of the United States.
You can judge.
He can't if he can't. So let me ask you this. How do you then resolve Barack Obama sitting in Reverend Wright's church for 20 years and hearing black liberation theology and how he he's applied that to his policies.
I'll say,
how do you justify that?
Very simple.
Of course
you do. Has Barack Obama espoused these theological views?
Well, you see it in the policies. He doesn't. The difference between Barack Obama and President is that
you guys are still fighting here. This isn't working here. Let me try something here. Let's let Sarah Palin speak. Now,
okay.
Now we can agree on something. Here's Sarah Palin.
For sure.
Bringing coal to Newcastle. She's on Sean and Hannity last night. She went after the media for focusing on this issue, even having this kerfuffle you guys are having, or as I would say, Donnybrook. Let's watch here. Let's watch.
They will attack any conservative who boldly proclaims their faith and talks about there is good in the world and there is evil in the world. And that's what Rick Santorum was talking about. And this was a speech that he gave back in 2008 where he named evil as Satan. And for these lamestream media characters to get all wee-weed up about that, first you have to ask yourself, have they ever attended a Sunday school class even? Have they never heard this terminology before? And that's why they just got so, just whacked out about this speech.
Can we listen to Chris Christie now to hear a man I consider fairly secular in his thinking? Then we'll respond to that quick. Here's Chris Christie talking on GMA this morning about the very topic. He supports Romney, by the way. He has his thumb on the scale here. He's going after Santorum's Satan remarks. So let's listen to that. Then, Michael, Mr. Chairman, I want you to respond, then you. Quickly.
Listen, I think anything you say as a presidential candidate is relevant. I mean, it's by definition relevant. You're asking to be president of the United States. So I don't think he's right about that. I think it is relevant what he says. I think people want to make an evaluation, a complete evaluation of anybody who asks to sit in the Oval Office. So I think it's relevant in that respect. Now, do I think it's the things we should be, as a party, talking about and emphasizing at the moment? No.
Your Honor, you're relevant or not relevant? This diabolic devil talk.
Trust me, I'm not disagreeing with the relevance of it. I agree with that. But my point is you don't get to sit in judgment of it.
It's relevant.
Which is what I believe you're doing. And I agree with Sarah Palin, by the way.
Good. I'll take that.
Here you go, Sarah.
Okay. It's highly relevant. You can evaluate these people on the basis of how they see the world.
Okay, I'm somewhere in between. Anyway, thank you, Michael Steele. Thank you, good guys. Thank you, David Court. By the way, this is what people are going to be arguing about this year, unfortunately, the devil.